My father was still breathing when my siblings started dividing his estate. I know that because I was in the room when they did it. They thought I had gone home for the night. I hadn't. I was sitting 3 feet away, behind a privacy curtain, holding a legal binder I'd been reading from for 6 weeks. On the small table beside his bed, half hidden under a folded prayer cloth, was a digital recorder I had placed there 14 days earlier. I put it there because my father had been showing faint signs of response to familiar voices. His neurologist suggested audio stimulation. Familiar words, familiar tone. What the recorder caught instead was my brother Marcus and my sister Dana, standing at the foot of his bed speaking in low voices about power of attorney fraud. I did not move. I barely breathed. My father raised 3 of us on his own after my mother died. I was 19 when she passed. Marcus was 24. Dana was 26. They both left within the year. I stayed. I took the job at the local hospital billing office. I handled Dad's appointments, his medications, his tax filings. For 11 years, I was the person who showed up. When the stroke hit on a Tuesday morning in March, it was me who rode in the ambulance. Me who signed the emergency consent forms. Me who called Marcus and Dana and told them to come. They came, but not for 3 days. And only after I sent a second message explaining that the estate documents were involved. That detail mattered. I noticed it. I filed it away. Marcus had started asking about the estate bylaws in a way that felt less like concern and more like inventory. He asked twice about the power of attorney documentation. I told him the attorney handled all of it. On day 14, I placed the recorder under the prayer cloth. They came in at 10:47 p.m. I heard Marcus tell the nurse in the hallway that they just wanted a few minutes alone with him. I was already behind the curtain, sitting still, my phone face down, the recorder already running. What I heard in the next 19 minutes, I will not describe in full. I will tell you what mattered. Marcus had found a template for a backdated power of attorney. The plan was to redirect the estate's medical reserve fund, approximately $340,000, into a private offshore account Dana had already opened. Then Dana said something I have not forgotten. She said, "Elena does this every day and thinks she's doing something. Let her read to him. It keeps her busy." She meant me. Sitting 3 feet away, I kept my face still. I held the binder. I did not move. The one thing I had not expected, Marcus said the notary had already signed one document. One was already done. If you've ever had to sit across a dinner table from people who have just threatened to destroy you, you understand why I didn't say anything. I went home. I called my father's estate attorney and told her what I had heard. I told her about the recorder. She told me to come in immediately. She listened to the recording twice. On the second pass, she took notes. Audio recordings made in a semi-private hospital room in our state are legal under single-party consent law. If the fraudulent POA had already been filed with the county clerk, reversing it would become significantly more complicated. We had, she estimated, a narrow window. Carolyn contacted the digital forensics firm her office used. They pulled the metadata from the recording. Meanwhile, I went back to the ICU and kept reading. I brought Marcus coffee. I asked Dana how she was sleeping. I gave them nothing. On day 4, Carolyn confirmed the fraudulent POA had not yet been filed, but it had been drafted. Through a chain of records requests, Carolyn identified the notary, a man with 2 prior fraud citations who had lost his commission in another state 3 years earlier. That was the document that mattered most. Not the recording, the notary record. Because it meant the fraud wasn't theoretical, it was evidence. The family meeting was my idea. I told Marcus and Dana that the medical team wanted to brief the family together, that there were decisions coming. Carolyn was already seated at the small conference table when we walked in. So was a detective from the Financial Crimes Unit, though he was introduced only as a family liaison at first. I set a laptop on the table. Marcus looked at it. He looked at me. He said nothing. I played the recording. It lasted 4 minutes and 11 seconds before Marcus tried to stand up. Carolyn placed a single sheet of paper on the table in front of him, the drafted POA, with the fraudulent notary's name circled. Detective Harmon introduced himself properly at that point. Dana did not speak for the rest of the meeting. She sat with her hands in her lap and stared at the wall behind my head. I watched her realize in real time that the grief she had dismissed as weakness was the thing that had saved my father's estate. My father came out of the coma 11 weeks after the meeting. He has not fully recovered, and he may not. But he came home. His estate is intact. His trust is protected. And the people who stood at the foot of his bed while he was unconscious and turned his life into a transaction are no longer permitted contact with him. If you have a vulnerable parent, do not wait for something to feel wrong before you document. By the time it feels wrong, it is usually already in motion.